In the final years of the Soviet Union, a state that claimed serial killers simply did not exist, one man hunted freely for over a decade.
We have serial.
There are no serial killers in the Soviet state.
His name was Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo. The world would remember him as the Rostov Ripper. What followed was a story of systemic denial, political privilege, broken forensics, and a monster who thrived in the silence.
They had not dealt with anyone of his caliber before. They were reluctant to admit that things like this would occur in a communist state.
Chikatilo was born in 1936 during Stalin's Holodomor, a famine so severe that stories of cannibalism echoed through the Ukrainian countryside. His mother told him a chilling tale that his older brother Stepan had been kidnapped and eaten by starving neighbors. There's no record Stepan ever existed, but the story carved itself into young Andrei's psyche. Growing up, he endured malnutrition, bullying, and worsening sexual dysfunction. The powerlessness he felt as a child would later twist into a craving for absolute domination.
His mother used to tell him stories that his older brother was cannibalized because of the famine that was taking place.
By adulthood, Chikatilo seemed ordinary, a married man, father of two, and eventually a member of the Communist Party. This membership mattered. In the Soviet Union, party members were considered ideal citizens, respectable, loyal, above suspicion. This status would later shield him from police scrutiny, a fatal blind spot that allowed him to kill again and again.
Are you aware that...
While teaching, he inappropriately touched students and stalked girls. Complaints followed, but schools chose silence to avoid scandal. He left each job quietly, never punished. Inside his mind, fantasies of cruelty and violence intensified. His first confirmed murder occurred in December 1982. Yelena Zakotnova, age 9. Chikatilo lured her into a shed near a bus stop, then unleashed years of repression and rage. He later described the act as a release, like pressure escaping my body. But the tragedy didn't end there. Under political pressure to solve the case quickly, police arrested an innocent man. He was tortured into confessing and later executed. The real killer watched silently and realized the system was too broken to catch him. Chikatilo became a phantom. He prowled train stations, bus stops, forests, and isolated paths across Rostov Oblast and beyond.
A lot of the bodies were found near transportation points, bus stations, train stations in particular, which indicated that the killer, whoever he was somebody who used the Soviet transportation system extensively.
Victims were boys, girls, teenagers, young women, anyone alone or vulnerable. His methods were savage: sudden attacks, stabbing frenzies, post-mortem mutilation, and ritualistic patterns that baffled investigators. Poor Soviet forensics made it worse. No DNA testing, minimal blood analysis, contaminated crime scenes, conflicting pathology reports. And most damaging of all, Soviet profiling insisted that a serial killer must be young, muscular, mentally unstable, a drifter, not a quiet, middle-aged Communist Party member. This single misconception let him slip through police dragnets multiple times. He was even questioned and released. By 1984, more bodies began turning up near train lines and wooded areas.
By 1984, we had found 23 bodies. Some of the bodies were still fresh, which gave us a broader picture of the injuries and the killer's behavior at the site of crime.
The case ballooned into one of the largest manhunts in Soviet history, but it was crippled by secrecy. Officials feared admitting a serial killer existed. It contradicted the image of a perfect socialist society. So the public wasn't warned, families weren't informed, and people kept dying.
The transitional period, it would seem, is over. Another Soviet leader who was too old and too sick when he took power to hold on to it has died. And now a 54-year-old has taken over, someone who, theoretically at least, will be around for a generation. Get used to the name, Mikhail Gorbachev.
New leadership arrived Mikhail Fetisov and later Igor Burakov, who began using pattern analysis, geographic profiling, and psychological reasoning, modern methods unheard of in Soviet policing. the investigation sharpened, but Chikatilo continued killing. In November 1990, plainclothes officers spotted a thin, nervous man wandering around a wooded area near a train station, the exact type of location tied to previous bodies. His fingertips were scraped, his shoes were muddy. He behaved strangely. It was Chikatilo.
According to the policeman who was watching him, the suspect washed his shoes and cleaned his coat. The policeman in civilian clothes asked him to show his papers. It happened the next day after Chikatilo had been stopped on the platform. The body had all the typical injuries on it. The chief of police immediately demanded the files of any suspicious individuals who were registered in the last 24 hours.
When officers checked his record, they noticed a detail previously overlooked. He was in the Communist Party. This status had shielded him from suspicion for years. But now, forensic inconsistencies, his location patterns, and eyewitness descriptions finally aligned. Chikatilo was arrested.
He had come out of the pub with a bottle of beer and tried to make contact with a young boy. We suspected that he might try to lure the boy away. And at that point, Chikatilo was arrested.
At first, he denied everything. But after days of pressure, something cracked. He began talking, calmly, clinically, describing each murder in chilling detail. He spoke of urges building like storms, voices guiding him, power over life, and needing the feeling again. His statements matched crime scene photos so precisely that detectives were stunned. He confessed to 52 murders. When asked why he chose certain victims, he answered, "They were there. They were easy. I could make them come with me." His confessions remain among the most disturbing ever recorded in Soviet criminal history. The trial was a spectacle. Chikatilo sat inside a steel cage, not for his safety, but to protect everyone else from him. Families screamed at him. Some fainted. Others demanded he be released so they could kill him themselves.
It was a bizarre scene. In the public seating, you had a number of family members of victims who were quite vehement in their desire to see him executed. And if they had had the option of seeing him executed by having wolves tear him apart, they would have voted for that.
Chikatilo performed for the cameras, laughing, singing, exposing himself, pretending insanity, and mocking victims' families. But the evidence, his confessions, forensic matches, and verified timelines was overwhelming.
He seemed at various times intent on proving that he was crazy. At some points that I witnessed, he jumped up and started shouting at the judge and then dropped his pants and exposed himself. At other times, he started cursing and screaming and so.
He was found guilty of 52 murders and sentenced to death. On February 14, 1994, in Novocherkassk prison, Andrei Chikatilo was executed with a single shot behind the right ear. The Rostov Ripper was gone. But the damage he caused, the lives lost, the system exposed, would echo long after his death. Chikatilo's crimes inspired a wave of books, documentaries, and films. Among the most notable, Citizen X, 1995, an HBO film depicting the investigation, widely praised for accuracy.
As many as 17 stab wounds to the face and eyes. 32 stab wounds with additional disfigurement.
One killer.
Child 44, 2015, a fictionalized thriller inspired by the era and loosely by Chikatilo.
I've been authorized to offer you promotion, Demidov, in the new state security.
You will have a great life if you do as you're told.
The Butcher of Rostov, European documentaries based on the case archives. Books such as The Killer Department by Robert Cullen and The Rostov Ripper by Chris Summers. Chikatilo's case forced the Soviet and later Russian criminal systems to modernize. Forensic science, psychological profiling, inter-regional cooperation, and public safety alerts. His legacy, however dark, changed criminal investigation forever. For over a decade, the Soviet Union denied the existence of serial killers, but one was walking among them, quiet, polite, unremarkable, until he wasn't.